Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are also going to talk about another announcement from the GAMA Trade Show from Games Workshop, which is Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry. And to be honest, I did see this when it was put up on the website, which I'll link the article in the description down below, but it was put up at 3 AM, which I was awake for because insomnia is great, but I didn't pay a huge amount of attention to, if I'm totally honest. I kind of looked at it, read down a little bit, and I got to, this is Warcry, a new skirmish game from the makers of Kill Team and Warhammer Underworlds. And I thought to myself, alright, I mean, sure, I feel like we've got a good number of skirmish games at this point. Perhaps more skirmish games isn't necessarily something that we particularly need, but go for it. Sure, you do what you like. Then I actually went back in the morning, having finally got a bit of sleep, and looked at it again. And to be honest, I disagree with myself on my kind of gut reaction, and I think this actually looks kind of interesting, and it looks kind of interesting in a couple of different ways. The first is a solely practical level. So, as they point out, Warcry is perfect for narrative players looking to forge character-driven campaigns where warbands grow and develop through their own journey, which sounds good to me as a narrative player. Meanwhile, gamers looking for a close-matched, fast and exciting experience will find a game that fits both their coffee table and coffee break. That bit especially is very attractive to me, because I'm one of those people that, whenever I play 40k or Kill Team or whatever, I say to myself, we can have a quick game, it's not going to take long, we know what we're doing, no problem. And it always stretches out into 4 or 5 hours because that's not how this works. And it's never been how it works with me. I am a slow player. Everyone who plays with me knows I am a slow player, and yet I convince myself otherwise. Kill Team is quicker than, it's quicker than 40k, obviously, but to be honest, I prefer either 40k or a truly fast game. Kill Team is a nice middle ground if you don't have a huge amount of time and you want to have that kind of squad-based combat, and I do like it, but it's not quite on the same level as 40k proper for me personally. It's not quite quick enough to be kind of something I can just blast into and then walk away from, and it's not quite slow enough to be as fun as an actual full game. It's not bad, and I obviously, if you like it more than either of the others, then that's fine, but it doesn't quite scratch the itch for me. The idea of something being quick enough to enjoy on a coffee break, I mean, of course, it depends entirely on what your coffee break is. If your coffee break is 5 minutes, it's probably going to take longer than that. But if it's 20 minutes to half an hour, then I could easily see myself very much enjoying something that quick. If the gameplay is that quick, if it's that brutal, if it's that kind of bloodthirsty, then that might scratch an itch that Kill Team doesn't quite get for me. It might do a little bit more for me than Kill Team. And it might be enough of a different experience to 40k for me to not sit there and go, this is good, but I prefer to play full fat 40k. That's a positive for me. I mean, let's face it, 40k, all of the Games Workshop hobbies, they require a significant time investment, and I don't have a problem with that at all, otherwise I wouldn't play them. But they do require a significant time investment. If you are creating an army from scratch, especially if you're an idiot like me and you just have to kit bash literally everything, making an army it's a significant chunk of time. Modelling and painting, it takes up a lot of hobby time before you even get to playing the game. And I do prefer actually just being able to say, I've got the rest of the day free. This is 40k time. You know, I can do a bit of modelling, a bit of painting with a spare half an hour here and there. If I decide to come through here of an evening, I can just sit down for a couple of hours and paint away, and that's great. If I'm going to play 40k, I want to be able to just go, right, I've got from like this point on, and the rest of the time is free. This is all 40k time. This entire afternoon, evening, that is for 40k. This could fill a nice little gap in that, whereby I could just actually have a quick game against someone and it wouldn't need to take all afternoon. I wouldn't want to have to block everything off. It could be a case of, well, I'm on my way past, why don't we have a couple of games of Warcry? And then I'll be on my way and carry on doing what I was doing. Something like that. There's, I think, actually genuinely an opening for a properly fast game that still retains the modelling and painting aspect of of the hobby, because that's one of the things I like the most about it, being able to take stuff and make it your own, or just flat out doing an evening of painting and sitting down and going, okay, I'm happy with all of that. That's good, especially if the models are interesting, which in fact brings me on to the next thing about this that I find actually genuinely attractive. So that in the game, you'll follow the myriad tribes of Chaos as they make their pilgrimage to the Varanspire. Warcry explores a never-before-seen side of life and death in the Age of Sigmar. Every model for this game is brand new, reflecting on the dizzying diversity of Chaos on a scale never attempted before, and rooted in rich lore that realises the servants of the Dark Gods as deep and varied cultures. I love that idea. I am a huge proponent for actually expanding Chaos, making Chaos more interesting, showing all the different aspects of Chaos, all the different loyalties to Chaos, all the different sides of the people who follow Chaos, who fight for Chaos. I mean, just today we were talking about the idea of a Traitor Guard Codex and how that would make a big difference on the tabletop in terms of showing a side to Chaos that just isn't properly shown. Actually having a whole bunch of miniatures, a whole bunch of these warbands, these tribes, these clans, designed almost entirely to show, hey, yeah, it's not just the dudes from the Blades of Khorne, it's not just the Slaves to Darkness. There's actually a whole shed load of different cultures that follow Chaos and represent Chaos in their own way. That adds a depth and a uniqueness to whatever universe it's in, whether it be Age of Sigmar or 40k. That just adds more detail. It adds more detail, it adds more interpretation, and it just lends itself to making things more credible and more interesting. So the idea of actually having a fast-paced game that takes hardly any time to play, that you can just stick on a small surface, blast through, and somehow in the process you're getting a narrative experience complete with a bunch of new cultures that you don't know anything about, like that you haven't known anything about until this point, all comprised of brand new models. I cannot say that I don't think that's a good idea, because I actually do. I've gone from like, oh, it's another skirmish game, great, to genuinely sitting there going, right, so when can I buy this? Like, it's not even 40k. It's not even a system that I currently play. I mean, I have a Nighthaunt army. I should probably paint that at some point and actually use it for something other than D&D. But this is enough of a unique prospect compared to what is currently on offer, because one of the things I like about Kill Team is the squad-based nature and the just the way you can make it your own. There's a lot of conversion opportunities, a lot of way to make your Kill Team unique. And I do like the gameplay of it, but it does tend to go on longer than I think it will every time. Warhammer Underworlds, I've just never quite got into. That it feels like there's going to be a learning curve to go into that, and I've just not quite summoned up the courage to go in for it just yet. If this is anywhere close to what it's being advertised as, where you're getting a bunch of new lore, you're getting a bunch of new Chaos models, all with different personality, all with different weapons, with different styles, with different cultures, that lends itself to narrative playing and takes hardly any time at all to actually play, I'm going to be really hard pressed not to just go all in on something that isn't 40k or 40k based, which, to be honest, for me, that's actually quite a big thing. It's difficult to tempt me away. Like, much though I love the look of Blackstone Fortress, for instance, I've resisted buying that because I look at it and I go, okay, that looks really awesome. But sensibly, I know that I need to paint a bunch of other stuff first. I need to build a bunch of other stuff first. I'm not going to play as much 40k if I get that, most likely, because the amount of free time I have for that is going to be exactly the same as it is for 40k. It's the same thing with Age of Sigmar. Like, I had the Nighthaunt army that was part of the Soul Wars, and something that has meant that it's not get painted yet or used yet is because I've got a bunch of 40k stuff to build and paint. It's things like that that have put me off Necromunda, for instance. I mean, I'm using the Cawdor gang as a basis for my kill team, but I'm not going to start playing Necromunda because it's another system to learn. It'll take a while to learn it, and it's another set of rules, it's another set of this, that, and the other, which again cuts into 40k time. This Warcry might fulfill a really, really nice gap in my hobby stuff, whereby I get some interesting new models to paint. I get some interesting, like, warband options kind of thing. I get a game that I can just take to someone's house, we can blast it out in half an hour, and then go on and carry on doing whatever I was doing. And to be honest, and this is a relatively niche thing, it depends on what kind of campaign you're running, I was looking at this and kind of going, oh, well, there's an easy way to write all of this stuff into D&D as well. A bunch of like gladiators and stuff, I could totally make something out of that. There's like a multi-purpose thing to this game that quite a lot of this stuff doesn't really have for me. And it might fulfill that tiny little gap of something that I didn't think I needed, which was something with a narrative play of Kill Team that takes a fraction of the time to actually have a game of. It's actually genuinely really interesting to me, and I didn't think it would be. Like, just scanning it over, admittedly at 3 AM in the morning, which is never a good time to scan anything over, let's be honest, it's so much more than I thought it was. And we don't have a huge amount of information yet, obviously. We don't know the full details, we don't know how things like expansions are going to work, but if it does what they say it's going to do, I'm going to be hard-pressed not actually diving into it, because it looks like it is going to fill a gap that I didn't know I had in terms of the hobby as a whole. So yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to Warcry. It looks pretty interesting. It looks like it could be good, and to be honest, the models look really nice as well. The video will have popped up a few times during this video, obviously. I do like the look of the models especially, but I'd be interested to hear what you think. Did you do the same thing as me and just go, oh, skirmish game, who cares? Or does it interest you? Does it not interest you? Do you think it could be interesting? Do you like the idea of expanding on Chaos, but you're not too fussed about the actual game itself? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.